is that cousin Benjamin? Hey! And everybody got all happy. It's cousin Benjamin.
The music start playing, everybody start dancing in the streets. Hey! Mm. Man, you have me. I'm like really thinking right now. I'm like, has there been a prequel that's been good? Welcome to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture from two very different perspectives. I'm your host, Theo, and on the line I have the man himself, Mr. Benja. What is up?
What's up, man? Are we rapping now? Are we rapping now?
Throw a little something into the mix, man. Throwing a little something in the mix.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, we are so excited about this week. The news this week, we'll talk a little bit about the box office duds that are happening. So basically, box office is not doing too well. Talk a little bit of Comic-Con at home that's going on virtually this week. And then probably get ready for a Suicide Squad that's coming out. Then then we'll go into a little bit about the recap, where we talk about Masters of the Universe, Revelations, the new He-Man TV show on Netflix. And then finally, we get into the feature, where we're kind of discuss the nostalgia market, right? What's happening when we try to remake our childhoods. So it should be an interesting take on everything this week. With that being said, Mr. Benja, how was your week?
Week was good, man. Mostly a planning and organizing week for this upcoming BenjaCon, which will be this week. So by the time you listen to this, probably much of it will probably have already happened, but you can still jump in. Basically, I'm taking my IG Live thing and combining it with an old thing I used to do, where I just started talking with people during con season, because creativity, art, design, development was always happening around this time of year, and it was always good to talk about. So I want to keep that vibe going, and BenjaCon's happening.
I love it, man. Man, you out here singing from the treetops, right, about BenjaCon. I love it. So getting people hyped.
And it's funny, people that actually know me, they're like, "Oh yeah, BenjaCon, you would name it that." And people who kind of don't know me are like, "The fuck is he doing?"
Man, branding 101, man. Keep it out there, man. Just have people talking. That's all that matters. So no, man, definitely. Yeah. So for me, definitely, man, getting excited. This week was also business wise, building a startup, getting ready for get out there and talk to some investors. So really excited about that. But really kind of, getting excited about this upcoming family reunion. So, we're definitely all, spoiler alert, we're all vaccinated, so everything should be safe. But, with the Delta variant going around, but, just the immediate family, we're getting together and we're excited about this, man. So, family reunion stories, Mr. Benja. I mean, do you have some interesting stories, for the listeners, around, interesting, cousins that you've met at these events?
So yeah, actually I do. I wasn't planning on speaking on it, but check this out. So I try to avoid family reunions, and I'll like miss big events and then get together with people individually. That's the thing. But one time there was this big event, and I happened to be in the Bay Area at the time, where a large chunk of my family is. So I was like, okay, well, all right, well, I'll go check them out. They asked for me. I'm in town, and they called over, so let's do this. Ended up going. They're like, well, it's in Oakland. I'm like, sure, yeah, I know where you guys are at in general. Let's go. They sent me the address, and I'm in the Bay Area, right? So I'm listening to E40, and E40, classic Bay Area rapper, Sprinkle Me and a bunch of other songs. Um, so you remember E40, right?
Of course. Come on
Yeah.
now.
All right. So I'm bopping to E40, and I've got the address of this location in my head. I'm like, all right, so I'm going down to Magazine Street, and that's where I'm going to take a left and do this and that, and whatever. So as I'm driving there, I'm listening to E40, and I'm like, Magazine Street sounds familiar. I get to a certain part of the album, and he's like, "Yo, come fucking around on Magazine Street," and I'm like, hmm, what's going on Magazine Street? I don't know. And it was late at night, right? So
Uh-oh.
yeah, I don't know where the place is exactly. And, the GPS at the time wasn't 100%. It was like, hey, bro, we'll get you in the general direction, but you may have to go for a triple A triptych if you really want to know the exact location. That's old
Triptych.
school.
Shout out. Shout
Yep,
out.
old school directions, maps and highlights and little arrows on the map that the lady at the desk wrote for you. Yeah, exactly. Old school. So I didn't know where it was, right? Exactly. So I start slow driving through the neighborhood, you know, slow driving through a neighborhood on Magazine Street, looking dangerous. And I didn't realize I was creeping through the neighborhood in a car no one knew. And I like, wait a minute, I'm creeping through the neighborhood, and people are kind of starting to look like, hey, who's that? People are getting up off their porch and like opening up their window, like, why someone creeping? We don't know that car. I was like, oh shit, dog. I'm on Magazine Street and I'm slow creeping through the neighborhood. You know, they think something's up. And I didn't know what to do because I was like, crap. Well, if I speed through or if I park, I don't know what to do. Um, but basically, and this is a dumb move, right? You know, I slow down the car and I started to roll down the window. I was like, well, no, that's a bad idea. So I kept my foot on the brake and stepped out of the car like halfway,
Oh,
looking so suspect, right? Because I think I had a hoodie on at the time. It was my hoodie phase and everything.
oh my goodness.
So I'm like leaning out the car,
Oh no.
and I said, well, I better go ahead and be bold about it. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for Melvin. And then right when I said it, I'm like, shit, that sounds even worse. you know, I was just kind of be like, hey, how's it going? Looking for Melvin. But it's like, hey, how's it going? Looking for Melvin. And he's like, Melvin? He's like, yeah. And like a couple people came out the house. I'm like, it's Benjamin. And then like some person like stuck their head out. I was like, is that cousin Benjamin? Hey! And everybody got all happy. It's cousin Benjamin.
The music start playing, everybody start dancing in the streets. Hey!
And they were like, boy, go ahead and park in the garage. Just park right here. Get out of that car. I parked and everybody was like, yeah, man, we didn't know who you were creeping around. Like, yeah, I'm sorry. That was stupid. And that was like one of the best family get-togethers. But Magazine Street E40.
Well, it started off so very bad. It could have been even
Yeah.
worse. So your expectations are already lowered, and so now all you had to do was just not get shot, and it would have been the best family reunion ever. So
I was like, hey, give me a beer and some of that 7-Up cake, and I'll be good. We're good, right? We're good, right?
Man, I can't top that, man. Golly, man, that was a good one, man. That was a good one. It's just good to see family. We usually rent a house, everybody gets together.
Nice.
We had one where we had my parents, they renewed their vows one year, and I think that year we had a good time. Everybody, we had drinks flowing, we had the music playing, and then I guess I was doing the DJ, and my dad at the time, he was just like, man, what the hell is this? This is not my music. Turn this shit off. So he told me I was a terrible DJ. And so I had to go ahead and relinquish my DJ duties to him. So we could prove that we could play that what he wanted to hear, that old school Temptations type music.
Yeah.
So
Y'all don't know nothing about this here, boy. Music.
Yeah. So I had to play the Temptations and some old school Motown to get them hyped up for, hey, it was their renewal ceremony, so we had to do it. But so yeah, it was good, man. Just being around family is always good. So if you guys are getting out there with your families this holiday, right before the end of the summer, be safe, with the rising numbers of cases of a COVID, but definitely go see your family. It's definitely a good time to do so.
Would you consider your family a large family?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and now all my brothers and sisters have kids of their own. So and then I still got my parents. Then I got and then our significant others. They all have their parents, and so now that's at least 30 people right there. That's just immediate family. So now you start mixing in. So recently, I think I kind of mentioned I had to go to a funeral for one of my family members on my dad's side. Now that's a whole nother, that's like at least 100 people. that
Yeah,
shows up,
yeah.
you know. So because my dad came from a big family too, it was 9 of them, and
Hmm.
now they all got kids, and their kids got kids, and then so all my cousins, I show up, and it's like, I mean, you couldn't throw a rock into a cousin. You like, you
Yeah.
gotta be careful, man, because some you're like, hey, wow, she's cute. Oh, that's a cousin. Oh, hey, cousin. So
Yeah.
just like, it's just so many people in the mix, man. You just don't know. You
You
just
know,
assume everybody's a family member.
yeah, you lean over. Now who is that again?
You just assume. Don't lean over to no one.
No, no, I mean
Just-
just like try right for that. I'm just talking about you got so many people running around. You're like, I don't even know who is who. Like you assume it's a cousin, but you may have met him at some point. Yeah,
Assume everyone you meet is a cousin, so that's
yeah,
what you go into when I go to my family reunions. I
yeah,
don't,
yeah.
especially my single days. I just assumed everybody was a cousin, so I was
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah.
hey cousin, hey
He just
cousin.
just
Keep it
it
moving.
just gets turned off. I got that. Yeah.
So anyway, so yeah, well, everyone also be careful of family reunions. Don't mess the cousins. So there you go. That's the word of advice. So anyway, let's move on, man. Get into the news. So the box office release numbers are coming out here. We record this usually on Sundays. So there were 2 movies that were released this week: Ode and Snake Eyes. Ode, the new M. Night Shyamalan movie, debuted at 16.5 million, and Snake Eyes debuted at 13.5 million. So obviously those were not good numbers. Anything above in the 20s, 25, is pretty good numbers for the pandemic. So Mr. Benja, I mean, were you hype about any of these movies? Do you know what these movies are about? I mean, so it seems
Uh,
like box office is dying here.
I didn't even know Old was an M Night movie, dog. Uh, Usually I have a group of friends who will like, chime in. It's like, oh, I got another M Night, and then they, start saying if it's going to be good or not. But that buzz wasn't even around. So the fact that the buzz wasn't even there is kind of telling.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I mean, obviously, and the unique thing about both these movies, to be fair, is that they both were theater only releases. So it's kind of interesting. The last couple of movies, Space Jam and Black Widow, both were also released on streaming services. So it's kind of
Hmm.
interesting. Both those movies did way better. Now, obviously, they were better IP. Let's be honest. But the IP is associated with M. Night Shyamalan, who's done recently. What's the other one he just recently did? He did Glass, but yeah, Glass. That was the last one he just
Yeah.
did, right?
Hmm.
That everybody got hyped about, and that did pretty decent money. And then, of course, Snake Eyes is the GI Joe property. So, man, we should go into this. Why didn't these do well enough? What do you think was it the pandemic, the Delta variant, keeping people away? Was it the fact that it wasn't on streaming, or was it they were just both weak IP? They weren't as strong as like Marvel or Michael Jordan movie.
I think personally I think the IP is fine. I think you know, maybe M. Night separated his name a little too much from the movie because of the loud haters. But he still has a fan base, so I would have, I might have checked it out if I had known it was him. And as
Mhm.
far as Snake Eyes, you know, the they've already done the GI Joe thing, and people kind of know what GI Joe live action looks like. So, I want to say that IP is still good, but you have to have some kind of quality with it, and it happens during the lead up to the movie and the release. It's like they start projecting, then like, you know what, cut back on those advertising dollars. We don't need to spend that much. It's not going to do that well anyway. I just feel that it's telling that it wasn't a bigger movie because they didn't push it like, hey, someone go see this. They were like, it's
Yeah.
here.
Well, the original GI Joe movies. Let's talk about Snake Eyes first. The original GI Joe movies, GI Joe: Rise of Cobra, got 34% on the Rotten Tomatoes score, and then that was in 2009. And then 2013, GI Joe: Retaliation got 29% Rotten Tomatoes score.
Yeah.
So they didn't get good reviews. And then I got to look at the numbers on what they made that year, but I don't think they made as much money as they could have. But that's telling to say that this property, maybe we need a new term, right? We talk about IP. Is this skanky IP? Is this IP that's just just not going to take it. Because to be honest with you, man, I mean, we'll talk about this maybe later in the remaking your childhood. Man, GI Joe has a tight ass. It's a tight ass IP, man. Because I mean, we
Hmm.
grew up on it. There's some good stories there, man. It's like, why
Yeah.
can't they get this IP off the ground?
Yeah, we'll get into that in the future. That's a whole thing, man. But yeah, suffice to say, they dropped the ball on this one. Hmm.
Yeah. So I think what I haven't seen it, so if you guys have saw Snake Eyes, I'll love to get your opinion on it. I read some of the reviews on it and saw that it was kind of an interesting take on Snake Eyes. So we'll see what people think. And then obviously there's a twist with M. Night Shyamalan. He for those that don't know, he came out with The Sixth Sense years ago. That was like one of the biggest surprises that happened in the movie theater. If you haven't seen it with Bruce Willis, it was a great story, and everybody got hype about him. Then the next several movies, they got progressively worse with their twist endings, and more people started to get off the train. And then he kind of started coming back up again with this whole split,
Yeah.
universe he created, right? That was a tie to one of his 1990s movies, right? And so
Hmm.
and he released a movie last year called Glass that kind of tied up these two universes together and got people excited about it. So he's had a mixed bag, right? Ups and downs of his movies. And so this is another one of his movies, but you made a good point. They didn't really mark it as one of his movies. And so if it was M. Night Shyamalan movie, you would think, okay, there's gonna be a twist here, so maybe I need to go see it. But and it's getting mixed reviews anyway. So to your point, I don't think they just promoted it well enough.
Is old tied into anything he's done before?
I don't know. Like I said, if that's the twist, I couldn't tell you. But
It'd be a funny
yeah,
twist. Aha, you thought it was tied in? It's new IP. It's like, oh, boo.
exactly. Well, to be fair, I mean, people dog him. I mean, he just got his own unique take. I mean, he's definitely. I don't know if it's good or not. I mean, if you ever seen The Happening, or what was it called? I think it was called The Happening with
Yeah, the happening.
Marky Mark, and it was not good, right? That was, and then the Village was another one that was not good. The Lady
I
in the
I
Water,
didn't
that
I
wasn't good.
I didn't think the village and the happening were that bad. I know my friend Jeff, he gets on me all the time where he's like, the happening, might as well call it nothing happened, and the nothing, But
Or the Village was good.
look, I'm not saying good, but I'm like, oh yeah, M Night movie. I kind of okay, we'll go see it, and I'm fine with it. It's not like I get upset or I think I wasted my time. I'm like, cool, man, M Night movie. I get it. I'm good with this.
Yeah, the challenge with him is he made the one of the best twist of all time, with the Sixth Sense, and he's just been trying to get up to that, right? And it's been hard to do that. I mean, it's just hard, man. He could make a twist, but I give him credit because he tries every time. Every show, every movie he comes up with, there's a twist, or he's trying to make a twist.
Yeah.
He's trying to recapture that original glory, but it's just like he can't. He can never catch it. So
Did you did you
it's a
like
challenge.
Glass?
I like what they were trying to do with it. I mean, so uh, if so, everyone, what was the movie? Man, I'm trying to blank with Bruce Willis back in the day.
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. Thank you. So he made a movie, and I know we're going down a little tangent here, but this is good. It's kind of digging in the crates too, right? He made a movie, Unbreakable, right, with Bruce Willis. It was basically kind of a more modern take of the superhero genre, origin story, if you will, right? And so and it was a twist there, and everybody got, okay, this is kind of exciting. It was a different world, but it didn't get good reviews at the time. So what he did was like he basically created like a horror film years later, right? This is in 2000s, late 2000s. I forgot when what was it called? Split came out, but it was like a horror film, right? And everybody's like, okay, it's a cool little horror film. Aha, it's a twist. And the twist was it was going to refer back to a movie that came out in 1990. So in the 90s. So then Glass came out, which kind of was trying to tie up the two universes. And so, I mean, I get what he's trying to do with it. Is saying, hey, these superheroes exist among us, and this is how it would be. Um, so I thought that was kind of interesting, but I think I liked it, and so I hope that he can do more with some interesting story, IP in the future. So we'll see, man. I mean, I love he's doing original content, so this is gonna be interesting. So moving on, so Comic Con at home. was there anything you saw from this news story that from the Comic-Con news that came out that got you excited or hype from what you saw on the interwebs?
Uh, no, nothing at all. I think they released some Dune information, but I think that may have been released anyway. I don't know. Um, it was totally off my radar. I'm going to do some after the fact looking into what happened at Comic Con at home, but there was nothing I was like sitting down glued to my computer trying to figure out. And that's where a lot of the cons happening now. So they're in a weird space.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big guns, DCU and MCU, or DECU and the DC and MCU, they did not bring their big, movies and TV shows right to the Comic Con. So obviously they're kind of not scrapping the barrel, but kind of. So there's a lot of Walking Dead news, So there's all the Walking Dead TV shows got highlighted. Doctor Who, if you're a Doctor Who fan. They kind of hyped Doctor Who. So both of those, I know I don't watch either of them. I did watch Walking Dead back in the day, but I kind of fell off the wagon because it got monotonous to me. So I don't know, and no one's persuaded me that's good anymore. So I don't know if I'm going to watch it. But and then Doctor Who, there's just so much backstory. You got to go back to like 1960s and 50s to go find out what's going on with Doctor Who.
Yeah, and Doctor Who is weird. It's got its own crowd, so I'm not even going to try to knock it because what if you catch yourself getting into Doctor Who, it's a certain style you've gotten into, and I'm not going to say it's bad or good, but if you're into that style, you're like, okay, I'm a Doctor Who fan, sure. Um, but but yeah, Doctor Who is not like groundbreaking news that you need to like rush home, after you pick your kids up from school to sit down in front of your computer to watch live. I mean, that's as far as con news. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
And the Walking Dead, they're still walking after after all this time.
Still walking. Is that like it's like an album? The Walking Dead.
Still walking.
Yeah, no, Still Walking. The sequel. I love it. And then Paramount Plus, right? They're the big IP they have for a streaming service and just in general is Star Trek. And so they premiered Lower Deck season 2. I'm a big fan of this show, and so if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It looks like it's coming out in August. But Star Trek, is not something we talk about a lot on this pod, but definitely that's going to be a thing. I mean, they got so many TV shows coming out, not just Lower Decks, which is the animated version of Star Trek, but they got Brave New Worlds, which is that pre Captain Kirk era with Captain Christopher Pike. That's going to come out, and then of course they're going to have a continuation of the Discovery. So they got a lot of IP coming out for Star Trek. Are you hyped, Mr. Benja? You love it.
Do prequels ever really hit it off like that? I mean, just any of them. I mean, there's the Star Wars prequels, which, yes, I still like. But in general, I don't know of a time where I was like, oh man, the originals were good, but the prequels shut everything down. I mean, I never hear anyone saying that.
Man, you have me. I'm like really thinking right now. I'm like, has there been a prequel that's been good? I mean, there have been prequels that have been good. I'm trying to think. Oh man. Well, so let's put it out here. I don't know if you're a James Bond fan, but Casino Royale was basically a prequel. I mean, yeah, obviously that's a genre that's been going on for ages, right? But our dads and our dads have been watching it when they were our age. But Casino Royale, when they rebooted it with Daniel Craig, that was basically a prequel, right? How he became James Bond. So that was pretty good. I liked it, and so I think that was good. So there have been prequels that have been good. I'm trying to think. Let's put it out here. Godfather 2. That was a prequel / sequel. That was unique. Have you remember watching Godfather Part 2?
I'd have to go rewatch, but I have fond memories of Godfather Part 2. Some people panned it. I remember that, but I actually had fond memories of it.
That was one of the first ones. I mean, matter of fact, Francis Ford Coppola was way ahead of the curve because basically people saw Godfather 1, thought it was a masterpiece. He came out with Godfather Part 2, and instead of just continue the story, which was, a normal sequel at the time, and this is in the 70s, he said, oh, by the way, I'm going to show you how the dad came up in power. And I'm going to parallel that with how his son, Michael Corleone,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
doing the same thing. And I was like, man, that's genius. And he cast Robert De Niro as
yeah, yeah.
Vito. So I was like, man, okay, there you go. So that was, that was a masterpiece too. I think I got nominated for
That's
Oscars and stuff.
that's some other level writing. The whole Godfather. That's just, especially for the time. It's like, man. So
Yeah, he was ahead of the curve, man. That was in the 70s, dude. Nobody was thinking like that. Like, dude, you gonna make a prequel and a sequel in the same movie? Get the hell out of here. So anyway, so yeah, maybe I like that. Do prequels? What prequels are successful? Maybe we'll table that for another time to discuss that. So anyway, so Comic-Con at home, I think, is a wash right now. We'll probably do more, see if there's anything of interest comes out, but it looks like if Comic-Con doesn't have those big guns, then no one's paying attention, and that's unfortunate. And then the final item that we want to discuss in the news section is the Suicide Squad. It's been out there, the next version, the sequel. Since speaking of sequels, it's coming out here next Friday, August 6th. So, Mr. Benja, how are you feeling about Suicide Squad 2? Is this something you're hype about, excited about? What are your thoughts?
I like what James Gunn has been doing, just throwing interesting things into the mix. Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, and the first Suicide Squad. Well, wait, not the first Suicide Squad. That was garbage, right? Um, Sorry, I forgot what I was thinking. But yeah, the idea of him putting his fun spin on things is is cool. James Gunn's been doing a pretty good job, so I'm looking forward to this. Uh, but I do have issues with James Gunn. I don't know if you heard about his recent news.
Oh no, what's
Uh,
going
n-
on?
oh no, well he's just been putting out like he's got that creative talk where he's trying to said, hey, we need to go ahead and end the hero movie genre. Let's go ahead and finish it. Let's
Oh
wrap it
yeah, I
up. Let's
saw
be
that.
done. So you know he's like, hey, do something different or wrap it up. And I've heard talk like that before, and usually those people they're going to start sabotaging things or trying to build other projects very quickly. So it is what it is, but I was hoping he was a little more true to comic books. It doesn't seem like he is, so we'll see.
Well, so the first one, I mean, the reason why we're getting a sequel is like number one, the first one, let's be honest, it made almost $750 million in the box office when it came out.
Hmm.
2016, it had Will Smith in it. It had Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, and that was like what people were kind of excited to see. So so there was a good enough hook there, even though it got panned. Let's be honest. So everybody was still kind of excited about it, but and then David Ayer, if you don't know, he directed it. He was the guy who wrote Training Day, basically got an Oscar, I think, for the writing of that movie, that Denzel Washington movie. That's a great movie. I love. We'll talk about that another time. But I think to your point, I think you know bringing James Gunn into the mix, right? Who came up with Guardians of the Galaxy, and then who's done a lot of interesting things even before that, right? It's going to be interesting to see what he kind of does with this. But, his comments, even before this, I don't know if you remember, he got fired officially from Marvel, remember? For some comments that were resurfaced from his tweets
Yeah,
that were, a little problematic. So I think, you know, he's an interesting kind of guy, and so I get what the people are trying to do to try and push back against cancel culture and say different things because they're artists. They gotta, we need artists to tell us where the line is, right? So they gotta push it. So I get what he's trying to do with saying about hero movies, but I guess I'm excited to see what he has and what they're going to do with this Suicide Squad 2. But I think but DCU, they're just making these movies in a vacuum. It's not tied to anything bigger. So it's just like they're going to have hits here and there, but it's not going to be like a Marvel must see. And that's going to be the challenge.
I just had a thought. it was incredibly hard for me to pick up a comic book if it wasn't tied to anything.
Mm.
And I'm thinking about that in terms of movies now. So people who are trying to do comic styled things, it's interesting now. Yeah, I'm kind of just thinking about like what's happened with Jupiter's Legacy as a fail and like Invincible as a win. It's like I don't know. Um, Interesting stuff to think about. But yeah, James Gunn from Tromaville. We'll see what happens. I'll check it out.
Man, what's that one movie he did? It's gonna come to me in a second.
Talking about the Toxic Avenger. No, any of those movies. I don't know if he was on one of those
Dang,
in
I didn't know he
particular.
was. I'm sorry, I'm off on the rabbit hole. I didn't know he was married to the actress from uh The Office, Jenna Fisher, for like 8 years. Wow.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, just going down the rabbit hole here, but he did this one movie. Oh man, it was so crazy. What was it called? It was it's gonna come to me in a second if I can remember, if I can look it up fast enough on the interwebs right here. But
TikTok, TikTok, TikTok.
I know. So he definitely did Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And he's coming back and doing Slither. Did you ever watch that movie?
No, no, I heard about it. I thought you were going to come out with Brightburn.
Oh yeah, well I think he produced that one. I don't think he actually directed that one, but
Right.
Slither, I think that was the first movie he did. Man, go check that movie out, listeners. Go check that out. Slither. It's you get a sense of. I mean, that's him at his raw mind, right? Where he comes up with this stuff. His rawness, right? So yeah, it's got some crazy things in there.
All right, all right.
So yeah. So yeah. Anyway, we'll get into that later. But so is the hypeness out there? I think it is. It's going to do that streaming movie thing. My prediction, we'll see when it comes out. I think it's going to make at least 30 million, because it's going to be on the par with what we've seen with movies. But it's going to be hampered a little bit because people can watch it on HBO Max, right? So
Yes.
but it still do pretty good.
They have slowed down their marketing, so I'm concerned about that.
Well, there's so much out there. I mean, they filmed this movie, like, I think this movie was in the can like maybe a year and a half ago. So it's kind of like,
Hey man, I saw more commercials for Loki than I have for this.
yeah, good point. And then I think what's his name is out there more. John Cena. He had the like get up costume on like Jimmy Fallon or one of those. And so they're trying to promote it, but it's kind of hard with movies, man. I guess because of the pandemic, a lot of these movies are stale. Have you noticed that? And they just sit there and just like, I guess movies can go bad, man, if you don't put them out there.
That's the AMC calling to let you know your movie's stale. Sir, are you gonna pick up this? Are you gonna pick up this movie? It's about to go stale over here.
Well, it's funny. I thought I had my thing off, but I guess not. So there you go. So yeah, but movies can get stale, man. It's like, it's so obvious. It's like even during this pandemic, I've been watching stuff, and it's so obvious either they filmed it in the pandemic, because it's like there's not a lot of stuff going on in this movie. It's like maybe 3 people in a room, and it's like the same guy walking in the background. Wait a minute. They must have filmed this during the pandemic. Or, it's just, it was like, oh yeah, this is pre-pandemic days, because it's like way too many people here. So anyway, it's a weird time right now. So anyway, so yeah, man. So those are the news stories. So let's, so we're going to do a little different again. We're going to talk a little bit about Recap. We're going to talk a little bit about the new Netflix show, Masters of the Universe, Revelation. So let's get into the recap.
Spoilers on.
Spoilers are on. So, Mr. Benja, so this is going to be different. So I did watch the first episode. Mm-hmm. So maybe what we'll do is I'll talk a little bit about what my impressions were and what happens. Okay. Now, from my understanding, you're someone who has seen the whole show. Is that correct?
Those are strong words, but yes.
Why are you hedging your bets? So maybe why? I did not see it, but I did see it. So why are you questioning me like that? I didn't know this was trade secrets, man. So
yes,
okay,
I have watched them. Go on. going.
Okay, good. Okay, so with that being said, I'll give you my impression as someone who's watched the first episode, and then we'll go from there. And like I said, spoilers are on, so I'm more than willing to listen to all the spoilers and stuff like that. So let's get into it. So, He-Man, Masters of the Universe, basically is a remake of the He-Man show. I guess let me stop there. We thought it was going to be a remake, right? But when you kind of read through the tea leaves, it's pretty much a sequel, right? And they're trying to get into that. So, as someone who's watched just the first episode and was a He-Man fan growing up, I thought, okay, I thought the animation was good. Let's start with the positive things. But I'll be honest with you, I think it kind of turned me off at the very beginning. So basically, they were trying to, and be honest with you, there's a lot of names I gotta remember, so maybe you can correct me on some of these names. But Man of War, right? He shows up. Tila, I guess that's his daughter, and to be honest with you, I forgot all that. So it started coming back to me. So
Man at Arms.
Man at Arms, excuse me. Man, not man. What did I say? Men at Arms?
You said Man of War.
Man of War, okay. Man at Arms, thank you. And Tila is his daughter. I guess she's now the new man at arms for Eternia, and working with the king and queen and trying to help protect them and the I guess the Castle Grayskull. And so everything was going well. So I was like, okay, and then but then we saw the sorceress, right? The bird lady that comes up and shows up, and she's like, I guess has some creatures from Skeletor's dimension and trying to take him captive or whatever. He-Man is there with her, but I knew there was something off when I first saw the first episode, because I was like, where's Battle Cat? Because he was on some damn horse. I was like, wait a minute, this don't look right. So, and to your point, they're kind of playing with your emotions a little bit, right? Because you come to find out, they say, hey, here's He-Man here, but is that really He-Man? Because guess what? In this other scene that they're showing between Tila and Man at War, Man of War, Man at War. I apologize.
Man at Arms.
Man at Arms. See, I'm gonna write it down so I won't say it wrong again. Man at Arms. They're at this, I guess, some kind of celebration or ceremony, and Prince Adam shows up for it. So if anyone knows anything about He-Man, Prince Adam and He-Man are one and the same. So when he shows up and He-Man's still over there with the sorceress, dorking around, I was like, oh, shenanigans. So anyway, so make a long story short, I think when I saw it, I was like, okay, they're getting into some interesting character. We see Skeletor pop up. He's using a lot of, shenanigans, with enchantments, disguising folks. So there's a lot of trickery that's going on to just say, hey, this is not who this really is. It's not really He-Man, it's someone else. And so basically he says, hey, look, I failed so often, so many times, but I finally figured out what's going on with the Castle of Grayskull. And so he says there's power within this castle that I'm trying to get to. And so he's going hardcore, man. This is like, Transformers, right? The movie where everything is just like, you think it's gonna go one way? Nah, man, it's a different story, brother. So they're going hardcore. Skeletor is not fucking around anymore. So he's just like, look, I'm going in. So he gets into the heat of the battle, and he basically burns up, I guess, Moss Man. I don't know if that was a real character in the comics.
He was a very popular character, actually.
Oh,
people loved
the shit out of him.
Yeah.
He didn't care. He's like, bah. And so that pisses off He-Man. He-Man getting hardcore, and he basically uses the sword on Skeletor. And Skeletor basically comments and says, you finally used the sword the way it's meant to be used. And it was a ruse, because basically it pierced Skeletor, and it actually opened the key that enabled the orb to appear that really runs everything for Grayskull. And so basically I was like, damn, okay, this is getting hardcore. He-Man's about that action, boss. So Skeletor falls out, but then I guess the orb appears, and the Skeletor cracks it open. And then, right before, the end of the universe, because he cracks it open, the sorcerer stops time and starts to talk to everybody. So this is when I was like, oh no, this is not where it's going.
I thought that was actually pretty funny. It's like, I've actually gone through the trouble of stopping time to give my exposition. It's not a flashback or anything like that. It's like, hold on, I've only seen that one other time, and that was in the Flash.
Oh
But
well,
this
they
is,
do that all the time.
I mean, yeah, like multiple people have. It was weird. Anyway,
So
sorry,
there
but
was
carry
just
on.
yeah, there was no Pope swimming in the pool, right? To kind of get you
Right.
interested. They were just like, hey, you're so hype that we're just going to stop time to explain everything to you. So the sorcerer shows up. Yeah, exactly. And then, He-Man explains to He-Man he's got to use the sword to take the energies up. And so the reason I'm going to the first episode, because I know you'll fast forward through the rest of the episodes. But I think the first episode is so key to everything. It's like if you like the first episode, then you're gonna go with the journey. If you don't, then I think you're gonna be out. And so I'm like on the fence right now. So that's what I'm trying to communicate right now. So the sorceress, she basically, it makes no sense why the sword got split. I didn't understand that part. But basically, He-Man, is gonna have to absorb all the energies from the orb that Skeletor has cracked open. And so when he does that, she says, okay, we got a couple of seconds. He-Man has absorbed it all. So he does it. But in the midst of that, he becomes, Adam, Prince Adam, right? And so basically Tila, Skeletor, everybody sees that, Prince Adam was originally He-Man, and just shakes everybody to the core. But he's like, look, I'm going to save everybody at the end. And then basically, spoiler alert, he sacrifices himself, and he and Skeletor disappear, we think are gone at that point. And Tila's left there just in shock, right, of what she just saw. So make a long story short, she's reeling from this revelation. Yeah, I mean, they talked to the dad and the mom, the king and queen, and I forgot the queen knew. I didn't know she knew that Adam the was He-Man, but
Yeah.
obviously the dad didn't know, so he was just like that was kind of messed up. He was just like, oh well, He-Man's dead, but yeah, Prince Adam, he's okay. Where's Prince Adam? Hey, Adam, come on out.
Yeah.
Sire, he was He-Man. What? And he said, sorry you had to sorry you had to find out this way. Man at Arms said that. I was like, oh damn, that's effed up, dude. Come on,
Yeah.
man. And so obviously he was pissed. And then now Tila, she got something to say. And so she basically said, was like, man, I'm done with all y'all, man. I'm done with this shit. Man, y'all lied to me, Adam. Everybody lied to me for years.
Yep.
Whatever. I'm out this piece. And so that was it, man. So anyway, I say all that to say the reason why we kind of did a recap of just the first episode. So I would love to take it as someone who's seen the rest of the episodes, man. I mean, well, let me stop there before we get into your part of it. Okay, so I'm on the fence because number one, they teased my emotions. I thought I was gonna see He-Man doing the shit, racking shop, just a continuation of the story. Now I didn't know.
Right.
Well, it's a continuation of the story, but I didn't know they're going on a totally different path with a different character. They take He-Man off the board the first episode. So to me, that's very disturbing. You're trying to tap into my nostalgia. Why are you laughing?
That's quite disturbing. Carry on.
Look,
Yeah,
they're tapping into my nostalgia, right? It's kind of like, I always talk about this, man. Just the whole, they're trying to trick you into watching these shows, man, and tap into nostalgia. Trolling you to kind of understand, get you into it, and then they're gonna like flip the story on you. So that to me was kind of interesting. So obviously they're tricking us to kind of say, okay, this is not the story about Adam and He-Man. This is a story about Tila. So to me, it's like, I got to figure out if I want to continue this. It's interesting take, but it's something that I was like, I gotta kind of really think through. Is that something I really want to the journey I really want to go on right now? And so that's the disturbing part. And so as someone who's seen, the rest of it, what can you tell me as a skeptic to kind of figure out, is this something I want to watch?
What you're looking at after that revelation in the royal throne room, the royal court, what that is basically the start of the story. The rest of it was just whatever. I mean, whatever you want to call it. Not that it was bad, not that it was good, just whatever.
Are you sure? Are you sure it's whatever? Because then that has to be there. Because that's the link between what you saw before to get to the main story, right?
Sure, but for the purposes of Masters of the Universe Revelation, that's the start of the story. The start of the story is when in the throne room, because it turns into Tila's story very quickly, very aggressively. She throws down her crown, so that's more than symbolic. She's like, look, I'm not dealing with this whole political thing. She basically leaves and doesn't. She's not dealing with the whole court anymore and the whole kingdom, which was what He-Man was about. You know, she's talking about lies and secrets, so the whole alter ego thing, that's out the window. Um, you know, she's not. People are kind of frustrated with magic and all that, so that's out the window. All this stuff gets thrown out the window, and it all comes to a head at that end of the first episode, beginning of what they're trying to push out there. Um, so yeah, Tila gets very, that is one of the most. I didn't think about this before, but that is the most one of the most feminine sounding names. But it's she kicks it off into another direction, Um, and yeah, I don't know if did they show it in the first episode, but she ends up like cutting her hair. So I don't know if you've seen a lot of the
No,
promo
yeah, she just took the her
Okay.
crown off or whatever and then threw it on the ground. So
So yeah, later on she gets an old butch haircut and goes off in her adventures in the forest outside of the castle Eternia. Well, not Eternia, but the castle, the court, the royalty, and all that you've known. She was literally and metaphorically, physically, etc., walking away from all of that, and it just becomes a different story. So if you're up for wondering what happened to Tila after that moment, then go forth, young Skywalker. Um, Otherwise, you may want to just say, "Wow, that's the end of the story of He-Man right there," and just stop.
damn, okay.
Uh,
I mean, look, you got to do a spoiler. This is spoiler alert. So, I mean, that's just, I mean, that's the most blatant sense of like, I mean, all the promos, they never really hinted at that. They should, I mean, yes, they say call it Masters of the Universe. They don't call it He-Man. But
mhm.
look, he's prominent in the promos.
Yep,
They talk about it, they're getting hyped up. They should have prepared us a little bit better, right? They should have been like, they should have been like, hey, this is, this is the next generation of the He-Man story or something. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they really
that's what
prepared
I would
us
hope for.
right. What do you mean?
That's what I would have hoped for. That type of, it's a bait and switch.
It was point blank. And so it's like, wait a minute, at least give us the option to say, hey, okay, this is Tila's story. That's fine. I'll go check it out. So, but, and He-Man is, is the mythos of the He-Man or something like that. And I would have maybe thought about a little bit differently, but they was just like, hey, this is He-Man. He's back. And it's not like that at all. And so, I mean, this is spoiler alert. So, I mean, high level, where's the story going? Is it just Tila the whole way? I mean, obviously He-Man and Skeletor are coming back. Is that what happens?
Okay, so you're going to get spoilers on this on the internet if you just are scrolling through YouTube or He-Man or whatever. Um, so what they've done is, and this is wild. Actually, I'll get to the wild part in a second. Um, so you've got a story about, and when I said Tila ends up with a butch haircut, I literally meant like in terms of butch as we know it.
Yeah.
Kind of a lesbian kind of um, muscular kind of look that you associate with the word butch. Some people take offense to that, some people don't. So don't at me, or actually at me. Come at me. Um, so she's got this butch haircut. She partners up, um, teammate wise, partners up with a black engineer with you know with dreadlocks, and a female engineer, by the way, and they're both kind of, it's queer baiting, that it's
Mm-hmm.
where they're not like expressly uh gay, but they're together and you're like, oh, okay, that's the vibe. I get it. You don't have to, it's not a bad thing. I get it. That's the vibe. So they go off on their own doing all these adventures. She's an engineer, so she's not about the magic side of things, and she's all about like, hey, we can build this new robot, we can create this character, and we can do that, da da da. And they go on this adventure of trying to rebuild uh, Eternia, a new. They try to, set things right in their own way. Moss Man is dead. We still want to save the environment. We need to promote a little bit of that. They find Orko. He's sickly and dying. So it's like, all right, well, let's help him out. And the story really becomes really muddy because it's like, well, hey, magic is tied into the earth and Moss Man died. So are we going to bring the earth back? Are we going to have this, you know, environmental thing? No, Orko's dying because he can't get magic from the earth anymore, and he dies. Orko dies.
Oh my goodness.
I thought they were gonna like, hey, let's have Orko come back and at least, he can be some old magician in the mountain, kind of. No, no, they just went ahead and killed him. So I was confused there. I was like, oh, okay, they really are going with the get rid of the magic, get rid of the lore. It's all about technology, etc. Um, there's nothing and it's a statement that nothing is interesting about Tila. She doesn't have like a special way of fighting, a special move set, a special like Captain America doesn't have to be special powers aside from strength or whatever, but they make him a special character. Tila is decidedly not special, not a hero. She's just doing her thing. Like the engineer is more special than she is. The engineer goes and builds stuff and weapons and all that. So they go and they meet up with all of these old characters, and they're old. They make them old and crusty. You see Triclops, you see Beastman, and it's like she's just disgusted with all of these old relics and trying to get rid of it, but she's not rebuilding much. And it just becomes a really weird series of events about, I don't like that. It's old and busted. Look at this. We can do better. So I understand, like, in terms of writing, what all this is, but I don't understand. I can't relate to, that's a better word. I can't relate to a lot of what they were doing because it just seemed like they're making a story out of throwing stuff to the side that people actually like instead of building upon like a lot of the good lore that was there, because no lore, no cool stuff was really made in this show. It was just
Mm.
like, I don't like anything in this universe. It kind of had that feel to it. Like the writers just kind of felt, I don't like anything in this universe, or it's old. I know they respect it, but they're like, yeah, everything is old and busted. I have a butch haircut.
Wow. Yeah, I saw some of the thoughts on YouTube, and before it came out, I didn't listen to any spoilers, but that's the impression I got. So, I mean, look, again, my question is: are we going to see He-Man and Skeletor again? Did they even hint at that, or what's coming on? What's coming next, or is that
Oh, right.
old and busted?
The wild part. So we get to we get to there are only 5 episodes, by the way. So when I said I kind of watched it, I started watching. I was like, and they'd start talking like, hey, well, they stopped time in the first episode, but then another time they sat down and said, you know what? We should really think about the earth and these plants and everything. They're like, yeah, earth and plants. And I'm in the back of my head, I'm like, but you're kind of getting rid of magic, which was the thing that powered the plant life on the planet anyway. So you're kind of fighting yourself here. And then they stopped and were like, hey, technology is good in some people's hands and it's bad in some people's hands. Like these people have a cult of technology. Why do they do that? They're weird. Technology should be used for good purposes. And it's like, okay, maybe that was the influence of the moral of the day that you had at the end of every He-Man episode. So
Mm-hmm. Good
I
point.
kind of accepted it on that level, but it just felt weird. And at the end of the season, they find that people who have been granted power by Grayskull or whatever, they go to this place. It's not like heaven, but it's like a place for all the people who have the power basically. And Prince Adam is there. And they're like, "Oh my God, Prince Adam!" Da, da, da. He's like, "You can come back." And he's like, "Well, I'm here with all these other characters. Look, there's a Black He-Man. There's you know, a Native American He-Man. It's just all these other people with muscles." And they're like, "Why are you so skinny?" He's like, "I chose to be Prince Adam instead of being He-Man in this form." And they're like, "Oh wow, that's cool." And I was like, "All right, cool, I guess so." Um, so Prince Adam is there. They're bringing him back, and they're like, "We're gonna do this last bit of magic, bruh." They brought He-Man back. They brought Prince Adam back, and it like sparked this magic thing that Evelyn still had around, and it brought Skeletor back, and Skeletor kills Prince Adam, so He-Man died twice.
just to let you know, we ain't fucking around. This is There's no more He-Man. Basically, that's basically what they're saying.
Yeah, and he dropped his sword, and Skeletor picked it up and said, "I have the power," and he turned into a more muscular version of himself with a more badass outfit, and that's how it left off with the part 1 cliffhanger. So, for those of you not watching Netflix, they have these parts that they break stuff up into now. So yeah, it's a part 1 cliffhanger, and I thought the whole thing it wasn't bad. It was just weird, extremely weirdly written and presented considering the source material. And this is the same exact complaint I had with The Last Jedi. I'm like, why would you do that this way? Yes, The Last Jedi is beautiful, great cinematography. The story actually makes sense, but within the scope of the rest of Star Wars,
Yeah,
why
gonna
would
be
you do
different.
this? Yeah, so in the scope of the rest of uh, Masters of the Universe, I'm like, why would you do this? In fact, I started doing fan fiction while I was watching He-Man. Like, no, no, I mean Masters of the Universe. Sorry, why would you do this? You could have done this way. If you wanted to get He-Man out of the picture because he takes all the air out of the room, you should have done this. And I started fan fiction, dude.
So, real quick, I think on my side, I think that I understand why they did it from a business standpoint. From my understanding, this is based on the Mattel and Funimation that does He-Man, that did He-Man show that we all know and love, had different storyline, and that's under some different rights. Whereas Masters of the Universe is under Mattel, and so they have different rights they can sell. So I think there's certain things from a story standpoint that Kevin Smith and the rest of the team just couldn't touch. So that's probably why there's a lot of different elements here that we're going down the paths of. So just FYI. So I think from a business standpoint, The Last Jedi, while I liked the movie, I don't think that to your point, I think there was I don't know why they deviated so much. So it's kind of interesting, storytelling. I mean, that's where show versus business live, right? Like, how come the storytelling in Master Universe was so off? Was that because of the business side of things? Whereas Return to Jedi, it was more maybe just a show side, right? They just wanted a different story. So anyway, make a long story short, uh, do you recommend people watching this?
Um, know what you're getting into. It's very colorful. I mean that in terms of when you're watching it, it's visually appealing in a lot of ways. There's the animation is pretty good for, it's not like hardcore anime level, but as far as animation that Americans are used to and that He-Man fans are used to, good animation. There's some brutal action in there, some in a lot of places. It definitely changes up the story. So if you weren't attached to the the way He-Man was in the past, or you really don't care too much about that, and you just want to see more stories, different stories, then fine. Um, but if you're looking for a spiritual continuation of what was happening, or of what could happen, or questions not getting answered from the past show, they don't care about you. That's not what they were trying to do in the construction of this show.
They're not about that life, boss. I get it. I get
No,
it.
when I say I was fast watching, dog, I was just like, I'm glad you can do this with Netflix. You can just tap I was
Yeah.
watching it on my media player instead of my TV. I was just like, tapping all right, plus 60 seconds. So
Yeah.
Tila, you don't want to do the blah 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 blah, and I'm like, hey, it's got nothing to do with Skeletor. This got nothing to do with this. This is garbage. Fast forward, fast forward, fast forward. Um, yeah, blah blah blah. And then I feel that I'm like, look, you ain't got no castle, you ain't got no home,
Who
you
cares what
haven't
you feel?
resolved your thing with your father. That's not even yeah, it's like, Man at Arms, you thought there was gonna be a father story here, but they're just kind of like, no, 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 you stay off on the sideline, buddy. You're not about to enter this story again.
Yeah,
So, and
unfortunate.
if you know about Masters of the Universe, they have a wealth of characters that they could have said these characters are so obscure, and they did pull some obscure characters out, but they never brought any of them to the forefront because it, as I said, all that stuff just they rolled it up into a big bag and said all of this is old and busted, and we're going to toss it to the side. It was very weird.
Yeah, and it reeks of an agenda, right? So, like you said, there's so many different characters that go down so many different paths. So it's like, okay, what do we want out of this? And so this is the agenda. And so based on the characters we have, what we can do, this is the path we're gonna go down. And that's unfortunate. Instead of just, making the story organic, right, and making it breathe and live. And that's tied to something that we know and love. So yeah, maybe we'll revisit that. But I think this is a good stepping off point to go into, our feature today.
Yep.
The feature Remaking Your Childhood. So we just talked about He-Man. We just talked about other TV shows and movies that are coming out. G.I. Joe, for instance. It's interesting how these shows are tapping into our childhood, and Mr. Benja and I can talk about that, about how things are changing, and using this IP to kind of get people engaged in these stories. But I'm just curious, is this nostalgia that they're using, is this a good or bad thing? To define it, I think it's nostalgia, remaking your childhood, using it from a business aspect, taking this old IP and getting you excited about it. It's defined as a wistful, excessively sentimental yearning for return to or some past period or condition. And I think that's a lot of things that these IP are. This is what this IP is doing to us. And I always think of an old quote from Mad Men. If you don't know, Mad Men was a TV show that talked about the advertising industry, right, in the '60s, and how they use nostalgia to sell you stuff.
Yeah.
And they one of their most popular episode was called The Wheel, which was in season 1, when the main character was trying to sell this it's called The Wheel, but it was like a picture kind of carousel that they wanted to kind of get you excited about selling that to the market. And basically he sold it using nostalgia. And he said, Teddy told me that in Greek, nostalgia literally means the pain from an old wound. It's a twinge in your heart, far more powerful than memory alone. And so, so basically this is the epitome of show versus business. So basically, in a show about the advertising industry, they were telling you how they use nostalgia to sell you stuff in the '60s, and here we are in the 2020s, and they're using the same thing to sell us, the same old IP stories over and over again. So with that being said, let's get into this. We just talked about G.I. Joe. We just talked about Masters of the Universe or He-Man. What are your thoughts on where this is going from a business standpoint, and how people are people excited about it? Are they feeling like this is going to help business wise, and how does it affect the show side of things? Is this something that we're excited about?
Hey, I like your shirt, buddy. So yeah, I see you got on the Cobra Kai Strike First shirt. Wistful nostalgia. Look at you. Yeah, it's it's a strange thing. Apparently, nostalgia's always been around. I mean, in large amounts, and nobody's really got any data that says that we're doing more nostalgia than before. But maybe it's getting more attention now. Maybe it's getting more money now than new properties. And you know what? I think that's true. I think that's a factor of the amount of information and the amount of content that's coming at us. It's like if you're going to choose from all this new stuff on all these streaming services and all these, oh, look, Space Jam. Yeah, I'll check it out. It's like I did that. I was like, I wasn't going to check out Space Jam. I was like, all right, whatever. But I was like, all right, let me just turn something on while I, do some chores and finish up the night. And I saw Space Jam there. I was like, ah, whatever. Let me hit play on that. Just because it's nostalgia. It's easy. And with so many decisions to make, it's all of a sudden becomes very easy to just say, I know that. I know that property. I know that style of movie. I know that director. So yeah, it just plays into our ease of uh, acceptance, and I don't think it's a bad thing at all. By the way.
Can be perceived a little manipulative, right? I mean,
Oh,
I
sure,
think,
sure.
obviously, and I get what's going on here, right? I mean, we talk about this with Gary Vee and other like internet marketers out there. So much content, so many things that's seeking your attention that they're trying to find ways to kind of, capture that attention even for a second. And nostalgia can do that, right? From a branding standpoint, right? If you can just, you say, hey, this is something I remember back in the day. What's this about, right? And movies have been doing it for years, right? They have been, taking old books, old movies, remaking them over and over again, right? Sequels are tied to that too, right? That's why we have
Hmm.
prequels, the Star Wars prequels, tap into that nostalgia. So this is the old playbook people have been using over and over again. And I think, because there's so much content now, more than ever, they're going to kind of revisit this playbook even more often, right? If they can kind of get some emotional attachment to the content they create to get you want to watch it, then that's huge. And so I think we'll see more of that from a branding standpoint. So, and they've done studies on this. The researchers found that when people feel nostalgic, they're not as interested in money as in having it or hanging on to it. So basically, creates a good emotion, warm, fuzzy feelings that tend to make people place less value on money. That's a good thing from a sales standpoint, because if it's nostalgia, then they'll be like, oh, I don't care how much it costs. I'm just going to get it, right? Because it makes me
Yeah.
feel good.
It's like, yeah, I'm in this clothing store. My wife brought me along. I don't even want to be here. And hey, is that Boba Fett on an expensive T-shirt? What is that? $35? Give me two. Yeah,
Well,
nostalgia.
and to be fair, I mean, you're right. For those that don't know, I do have a Cobra Kai t-shirt on that's tied into a movie that came out in the 80s, Karate Kid, that was remade into a hit Netflix show called Cobra Kai. So it's all related. And so, yeah, when I got so hyped by watching the TV show, it brought back good feelings for me. So, yeah, I bought this X amount of I don't know tell you how much I paid for it. But yeah, it was substantially it wasn't $10. Let's just say that. It was something that was a little bit higher priced. Because it's tapping to that nostalgia feeling. So basically, there's value there, right? I mean, price is basically what it costs times the value, perceived value. That delta, that perceived value, it could be widely. What you cost, this shirt probably costs $1 to make, right? But then that perceived value, depending on how nostalgic it is, there's probably a price point that's like, you know what, we could probably charge, $100 for this shirt, right? I mean, I'm just throwing this out there, but
Hmm.
because the perceived value is so high, because people are so excited about this property. So that's the powerful thing of nostalgia as a branding exercise from a business standpoint. It taps into those emotions, and then you want to use Legos and ethos, right? You want to use that emotional side of people in addition to the logic. So basically, people use emotion. I mean, they use logic to justify their emotion, right? So I bought this shirt at probably a higher price because I was like, well, I need a new shirt. It's going to feel good for me while I'm working out, or I'm going to do this. So it makes sense, from a logic standpoint. But I probably bought it on an emotional side because, oh man, Cobra Kai is hot right now. I'm feeling it. I love it. I love Karate Kid when it came out. I want to feel like I'm in Karate Kid, so I'm gonna buy it. And emotionally, that's subconscious, and so that's from a marketing and business standpoint. That's what people tap into, man. I think, and that's powerful.
Um, are you over it, or are you still looking for more?
Good point. I don't know. You're right. Do I feel satiated? Right? Do I feel like this is enough? And so I don't know yet. We'll see what the season 4 is about.
See, I always say that like okay, I've had enough of this. I'm done, and next thing you know, it's like coming soon, Shang-Chi, and I'm like, ooh, well, there's what I wasn't thinking of. Hell yeah, I'm all for it. Shang-Chi, let's go, let's go, let's go. And there's still so much that hasn't been remade. That they're going to milk it until they can't anymore, basically. So I don't know if it ever really goes away. I don't, as I said, I don't think it's a bad thing. I only get upset when They do the bait and switch. They try to they have no spirit of connection to the old property. They just like, oh, well, here's an old license or whatever. Let's just slap it on this other story idea that this guy, like maybe somebody like James Gunn, he doesn't want to do it, but we're going to make him do it anyway because we got the license. And then it starts to get muddy. It starts to get, it starts to not feel genuine to me anymore. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Nah, I get it, man. And, someone who's trafficked in somewhat nostalgia with 8-bit, type of references.
Traffic. I'm a trafficker.
Traffic, yeah, you're a trafficker. You got the nostalgia hit, brother. You got the nostalgia hit. I need it.
You got them 16 by 16 pixels, dog. Yeah,
so I get it, man. So maybe we can do a deeper dive into nostalgia and how it relates to how you're kind of marketing out there, because I think that would be something relevant to the listeners as we start to continue to talk about this. So Mr. Benja, man, this has been a great episode, man. I think we want to kind of wrap it up there. Anything you want to get people excited about for next week?
Well, I'll be doing the BenjaCon thing. So listen, the whole thing that I'm doing on Instagram TV it's called Mr. Benja's ADD Experience Live. That is the art, design, and development experience. And if you think about it, it says add experience. That's what I'm trying to do here. And I'm bringing on people that I've always had all these creative discussions with in different ways. And I want to push creativity more out there to the people, because everybody creates, and BenjaCon, I think, is going to be a turning point where you start to see a lot more of what I've been trying to do. So, that's my week, man. Everybody, you can check me out on Instagram at Mr. Benja, and you'll get more of that.
Man, I'm so hyped, man. So check out Show versus Business on Wednesdays, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6:30. We'll be talking a little bit about at BenjaCon about how we started this thing and why this is so relevant right now, even more so. So definitely check us out. But Mr. Benja, man, definitely it's been a great episode. And so everyone, thank you for listening to Show versus Business. We'd love to kind of get your comments on where you can listen to us at. I think this is something that we want to continue to go on and, to keep talking about as we kind of move forward with everything that we have. So please like, subscribe, and comment at Show versus Business on Twitter or Instagram. And if you want to catch up with us, please reach out to us and listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe to podcasts. Everyone, take care. Mr. Benja, have a good one.
Strike first and peace.
Thank you for listening to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture. Please subscribe to this podcast at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Please like and subscribe to our Instagram page, Show versus Business, to get exclusive behind-the-scenes takes and upcoming episodes. Talk to you next time.
Finish him!